Welcome to the Camino Cafe podcast. I'm Lee Brennan, your host. Tonight we start off with a special message from the folks in Rabanal del Camino. I hope you enjoy their message.
Desde Rabanal del Camino, desde la posada de Gaspar y
la taberna del pueblo, os deseamos
¡Feliz Navidad!
¡Feliz Navidad! ¡Bien!
Hola, desde Rabanal del Camino, tienda La Despensa, os deseamos a todos ¡Felices Fiestas!
Hola, soy Cristina, del refugio Estrellas en Rabanal del Camino, y os deseamos todos unas felices fiestas y un próspero año nuevo.
Desde los padres de la Carnega les deseamos ¡Feliz Navidad y próspero año nuevo!
Hola, desde el Albergue del Pilar queremos saludar a todos los peregrinos y felicitarles las fiestas. Que el próximo año, que Dios nos guíe y que tengamos un feliz año y un buen año. Felices fiestas para todos y para todos los peregrinos. ¡Feliz Navidad!
Hello, I'm Father Juan Antonio, the new superior of the monastery, Rabanal de Camino. We are here in winter, today without snow, but it was very cold really. But I wanted to say that I wish you a very, very happy and holy Christmas. From Rabanal del Camino, we wait for you. Bye.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Camino Cafe. And you just got to see some special messages from the folks here in Rabanal del Camino. I'm so excited to be living here, and they have just welcomed me so graciously to this community, and they cannot wait for you to come back. We're all enjoying the winter pilgrims, but of course it's kind of slowing down, and every single one of them are looking forward to you coming here next year, and we hope to see you. So I wanted to say, if you're enjoying the Camino Cafe, to please tell a friend. You know, it's my mission to let people know as much as we can about the Camino and to inspire you to want to walk. And my guess is you probably have a friend that is interested in walking, but maybe they're just not quite sure. So if you see an episode that you think would speak to them, I ask you to please share that with them so that they can hear these messages that we're getting from all these very special pilgrims that come to the Camino Cafe. Tonight, I'm so excited because I have a special interview, and I'm sitting here with Suzanne Maggio, and I met her actually through another Camino Cafe contact, Mark Kraling, and Mark reached out to me and said that Suzanne had just written a book. So I have not had a chance to read it, but I'm really anxious to read it, but we are going to talk all about that, all about her Camino from 2019 on the San Frances. And, you know, we'll talk all things Camino. So Suzanne, welcome to the Camino Cafe. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Wonderful. Well, now you are based in California, so you're there now. And can you just tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about your life in California?
Sure. I am a social worker, and I have been a social worker for many years. It was my one and only career. So I started it when I was very young, and I like to joke with my students, because I actually teach now that, you know, I started becoming a social worker when dinosaurs roamed the earth, which they all get a kick out of. But it has been a long time. I've had almost a 40-year career as a social worker. And I currently am a university professor, or instructor, truthfully. I don't have a professor status, but I teach psychology and social work and counseling at the local junior college and at the local university in Sonoma County, where I live. I've lived in California for many years now, 38, 39 years. I was born and raised on the East Coast. I'm a New Jersey girl
yeah.
at heart. And I always say you can take the girl out of New Jersey, but you can never take New Jersey out of the girl. So I am still a Jersey girl. Grew up in Central Jersey, going down the shore and listening to Bruce Springsteen and all that kind of stuff that kids from New Jersey do. But yeah, my life is in California now. I have two grown sons, one that's 30, just turned 30, which is shocking to me. I don't know how that happened. And another one who's 27, and a couple of dogs and a pond full of koi and a gaggle of chickens. And yeah, we just have a great life out here in Northern California. And we're about 45 minutes north of the Golden Gate.
Beautiful. That is such a beautiful area.
It is.
So yeah, it sounds like you have an amazing life. And I'm just wondering, just curious, what made you decide to walk the Camino?
So that's the sort of the $1 million question, right? That I think we all grapple with, those of us that walk. I was about to turn 60 years old, and I had just finished my first book, which was a memoir called The Cardinal Club, about my relationship with my mom, who passed away from Alzheimer's disease. And we had a complicated relationship. And so I worked through sort of leftover stuff that we end up with sometimes when our parents pass, through writing that book. It was really a labor of love and a gift to my mom. And so that was done, and I was about to turn 60, and I really felt the need to do something that was going to push me and really give me an opportunity to take inventory and reset. And so, and I tell this story in the book, I had read Cheryl Strayed's memoir, Wild.
Yeah, great
and book. I remember thinking the whole time I was reading it, I want to do this, I want to do this. But walking the PCT for 3 months just did not seem like something that was going to be possible for me. I am still working. And then we watched The Way. I've seen The Way probably a half a dozen times, if not more at this point. And so it wasn't the first time I'd seen it, but it was sort of in the timing of reading Cheryl's book and then watching The Way again. And one day I just said to my husband, I want to walk the Camino de Santiago. And it was the fall of the year before I was about to turn 60. And he said, have a good time. and I said, no, I'm serious. And he said, I know you're serious. Have a good time. And that's how it started. And so I set my sights on it. And of course, it was nothing like I expected. It was so much more, but it was an amazing, amazing experience. And so I said that I was going to do it in October, and I set out on May 31st of the following year.
Wow. So you and I were chatting a little bit before we started recording, and you mentioned that you had taught in Barcelona for a while. So when you were in Barcelona, were you aware of the Camino during that time frame, or did you become aware of it after when you were back in the States?
I think I it's hard to remember. I think maybe I was cursorily aware of it, but certainly not. I hadn't seen the film yet. And so I don't think I was really fully aware of what it was. So I think, maybe, oh yeah, there's this thing there, but the idea that, sort of what it was and that it took a good month to walk in, I don't think I knew that much.
Yeah. Okay. So you're getting ready to turn 60, and I'm very sorry to hear about the grief that you went through and the loss of your mom, and with her Alzheimer's. I know that can be a really difficult time. So you had a lot to process, and you decided, I'm going to go on the Camino. And you said a moment ago that it was much different than you expected. So let's talk a little bit about you know, you're getting ready to do this and you have these expectations, you've seen the way, you've heard things about it. What were you expecting?
So, you know, I think I was expecting an adventure. That's for sure. You know, I thought it was going to be a long walk. I thought it was going to be a physical challenge. And it's funny because I talk about this in the book. You know, all the preparation to do the Camino. You know, I was out there on the weekends with my backpack on, loaded up with weight. So I was practicing all that stuff. And I would go to REI and scope out the $20 socks and the this and the that, and all in preparation to go. And I was really focused on the physical challenge that would await me.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I chose to go alone. And that was really important to me, to go by myself. I had friends who every time I mentioned it, somebody, oh, I want to go, I want to go. And I didn't want to go with anybody. I wanted to go by myself because I really wanted to push myself to really, in social work, we have an expression, lean into the discomfort. And so that's where our growth edge is when we lean into things that make us uncomfortable. That's the best chance for us to grow. You know, it's interesting. You mentioned to me that you're a yoga instructor, and I have been practicing yoga for, probably 7 to 8 years now. And yoga's hard. I find it really hard. And it's often the hard, the falling out of tree, I like to say. You know, it's like, I've been doing this for 8 years. How is it I can't still do a tree pose? But one of my instructors once said, you know, you have to stop pushing yourself to view these poses as though they are like these finite things that you're trying to accomplish, and embrace the practice. And so that really resonated with me, because that's the same thing we talk about in social work, that it is about the leaning in. It is about embracing those moments when we're uncomfortable to see what shows up, right, for us. And that's where we grow. And so I wanted that for me, for the Camino. That's why I wanted to go alone.
And did you see that going alone as a physical challenge and the physicality of being a woman walking alone? Or
oh no, I think for me it was more of an emotional challenge. I'm an extrovert. I thrive on energy from people, and doing stuff alone is scary to me. In fact, I tell a story in the book about when I lived in Barcelona and I was there for 6 months. I never once went out to dinner alone in a restaurant. Never once.
Gosh, Suzanne.
I was too afraid. Of being alone in a public space. And so going on the Camino alone was really important to me.
Oh, okay. We're going to talk about that. All right. So many things right here. Okay. So lots
so let me go back to finish the last question, because I think I got sidetracked. And that was, how was it different? So what I wanted to say about that was, I think I was focused on the wrong stuff, in the same way I am in yoga, which is like doing tree pose. I missed that it's about the process of doing tree pose. And in the Camino, it was the same thing. It was like I was focused on the walk, and it isn't about the walk.
Oh, this is rich. I love it. Yes, I always used to tell my students that it's called yoga practice, not yoga perfection.
Yes.
There is no end. You're never going to be perfect at tree, because there will always be something different about it. Your body will be different, or you can do something a little bit differently in the pose. So I love that you bring that up. So, okay, so much here. First off, I wanted to ask, you know, so many people after their Camino, they want to write a book about it. And I just wonder, did you know, because you had already written an award-winning book, you know, your first book, I think it was called The Cardinal. I don't have the note in front of me.
The Cardinal Club.
The Cardinal Club. Okay. So it was award-winning. So you're already an author. Did you know that, hey, this is probably going to be something I'm going to write a book about?
No.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, great.
so the book came about for me as a way to process what I had been through. And so, and the Camino, I think a lot of what happened with the Camino was when I finished, I realized I had just been through something, but I wasn't able to make sense of really what it was, right? And so I set about writing as a way to try to bring clarity to this experience that was very different than what I had anticipated it was going to be. So no, I didn't know I was going to be writing a book. I did keep a journal, but I kept a journal just of kind of, my journal's really boring, actually. There are elements of it in the book just so that people can see what I was writing about. And it wasn't about, oh, I ran into this really awesome person. It was like, today we saw, that kind of a thing. And, oh, my feet hurt really bad. And, today it rained, that kind of stuff. So I did keep a journal, which when I was writing the book, I could go back and look at and go, oh, okay, I remember that day, but it was really more about helping me process what I'd been through.
Okay. All right. I do want to talk more about your writing process. So we'll do that in a few minutes, but I wanted to go back and talk about, so you're expecting it's going to be this really physical walk, you're training, you're doing all these things. You know that you're going to lean into some discomfort for yourself. And but you said with your book that it really wasn't what you anticipated. So now let's give everybody an idea of, you had these expectations, which we all have, right? And then you get here and you started in Saint Jean, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you get to Saint Jean, you start walking that first day or so, and I see it already. Okay. So let's roll. What was different? What were you like? What have I done? Or what was going on in your mind that first day leaving Saint Jean and starting up the Pyrenees?
Yeah, I rolled my eyes because, of course, the first day is the hardest day, right? Of the whole walk. Nothing like jumping in with both feet on the very first day. If you make it through the first day, the rest of it's a cakewalk in some ways, So I wasn't thinking, what have I gotten myself into? I was so excited. I was like vibrating with energy. And, I stumble out of the albergue. It's still sort of dark. The skies are, just waking up from the morning. And the first thing I do is I go the wrong way. I went up instead of down. And I had to laugh at myself. Like I was lost and I wasn't even like 5 minutes. I wasn't even really on the trail yet. And I was already lost. And it was just perfect. It was so classic. But no, that first day, I think all that excitement and you're sort of out and walking and then you have your first conversation, and then it's sort of like the whole thing just blows wide open. Those first 8 kilometers straight up are really tough. But I think, I had that rookie enthusiasm and I was just ready to go and trying to figure out how to walk with my sticks because I had never used them before. And I bought them in Barcelona to go on the Camino. So yeah, it was just sort of those early hours where, the sweat is just pouring down your face because it's so hot and you're walking straight uphill, and yet you're surrounded by all these people doing the exact same thing. And I think for me, right off the bat, it became much more important for me, the people I was walking with so it was like what was happening while you're walking rather than the walking. And so that was like my first clue that, oh, this is going to be really different than what I thought it was going to be. Because I think, I see it when I look at the forums too, and people are like, what kind of hiking shoes do you wear? And what kind of, t-shirts and socks, and about your pack, and how much is too much? And I'm thinking, I think to myself now, I was there. I did that too. And now with the wisdom of having done it, I look at it and I go, you're missing the point.
Right?
It's not about tree pose.
Exactly. You know, I just want to say, wear the shoes that are comfortable for you, get a backpack that's comfortable for you, and quit worrying about all that because it's going to be so different than what you're expecting. But it's a thing that would be so hard to explain to someone that hasn't experienced it. And, you know, maybe that's part of the ritual that we all have to go through, this preparatory kind of thing, you know. I don't know. It's very interesting to me because it does seem that we very much focus on the physicality and it really becomes about something else. And so now looking back, do you wish or do you think there was any way you could have prepared differently for the way it actually was?
No, I don't think I could have. And you know, at the end, and I've talked to a number of people who were on the pilgrimage that I met on the pilgrimage who are now part of my family, my Camino family. And we ask each other, you know, would you have done anything differently? Would you have brought any different things? Would you have prepared differently? And honestly, the answer for me is no. Everything I brought, I used, and I didn't bring too much and I didn't bring too little. And I think one thing I would have realized was it's not the Pacific Crest Trail. You're not going out into the middle of nowhere. There's towns everywhere. You can buy shampoo. You don't have to bring shampoo with you. You'll have opportunities to get that. So it's that kind of thing. But I think no, in general, I don't think you can prepare for what it is.
Yeah.
At least what it was for me.
Yeah. You know, you did say that you picked up hiking poles. Did you pick them up on the way from Barcelona?
Yeah, I bought them in Barcelona. Yeah.
Okay. And so are you glad that you got them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm glad that I walked with them. It took a while to figure it out because there's a sort of a mechanical element to them. But yeah, I was glad I had them, particularly coming down from what is the name of the, I'm looking at, I have a map right on my desk, coming down from the statue of the Pilgrims between Pamplona and
yes. Down into Zubiri.
Yeah, down into Zubiri.
Me too.
Yeah, because the rocks on the trail were so they really imbalanced me, and so the poles I used them almost like ski poles, you know, just kind of planting them so that I wouldn't slip because it was really tricky coming down.
Oh, I'm saying the wrong place, like Point de la Reina.
Yes. So the part where the big metal pilgrims, that's where it is.
So when you're heading down, oh my gosh, I was so glad I had mine too. I am a huge fan of hiking poles for so many reasons. So I always like to make sure that we mention that. So before we leave the physicality part, did you have physical challenges? You did some training, but walking 500 miles is a lot of miles, and you know, it's back-to-back walking. So were there physical challenges that you didn't expect that you had to face?
Yeah, about halfway through, I got really bad blisters. I was cruising, you know, again, it's rookie enthusiasm. I was cruising for the first 2 weeks, you know, doing the thing where, you know, and we all hear about it, you know, stop every couple of hours, take your shoes and socks off, let your feet cool off, that kind of thing. Yeah. And so I was doing that in the beginning, and then I think I just got a little cocky. I was like, I don't need to do that. And then I got really bad blisters. So coming into Leon, I had blisters on top of blisters, and it was so bad that I could not put my feet flat on the ground. I actually, when I was walking with my socks and shoes on, I did, of course, but at night when you shower and you're wearing sandals, I walked on the edges of my feet. I sort of rolled my feet outward because they were so badly blistered. So that was really painful. And that lasted for probably, I want to say 4 to 5 days. They got really, really bad. And then I went into a pilgrim shop in Leon. And I told the guy that I had blisters, and of course I told him it in Spanish, and he points me to this rack of socks, And I looked at him and I'm like, okay, this is not working. I'm using the wrong word, or he doesn't understand. I said, no, no, no. I said, tengo mucho ampollas. And,
Yes.
and he said, yeah, I know. And he's telling me, pointing me the socks. And I'm like, okay, do you speak English? I have really bad blisters and socks are not going to help me. And he goes, oh, yes, they are. Trust me. And he pointed me to this pair of socks. He said, take everything off, take the compete off, take the bandages off, put skin to sock and put them in your shoes, and you will be fine. Within 3 days, the pain was gone.
Wow.
And so I called them my magic socks. And okay, so I'm going to revise my answer. The next time I do the Camino, I'm bringing those socks.
What kind are they? Do you know?
I don't even know. There are these black socks that I bought at this pilgrim shop. And he told me that they had silver in them, silver thread in them. And I guess silver is something is used for healing. But it literally changed. I was afraid I wasn't gonna be able to finish. It was that bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Especially during that time frame, because that's some hard walking.
Yeah.
That's a territory. Wow, that had to be tough. Mind over matter,
Yeah, it was
getting
very
through
painful.
that. I can't imagine. I love it. That's the first story I've heard of Camino magic socks.
Yep, Camino
love
magic
it.
socks. Yep.
I love it. Okay, so, but you said that, I think earlier, that it really wasn't the physical part. It was maybe the emotional stuff, the being around maybe other people. I don't know what was the other part when you said, like, really wasn't the physical part, it was the other stuff. So what's the other stuff? And could you give us an example of maybe something you had to face that you just did not expect?
Well, the physical part was hard in that, those blisters were really tough. And, there was a moment where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep going. And that was really scary because, you don't ever imagine not finishing. I mean, that was not, you don't go into it thinking, oh yeah, well, if it gets too hard, I'm just going to quit. Or at least I don't go into it that way. So that was tricky. And I think the other thing that happened for me, and this is tied to the blisters, the other really big challenge for me was I walked from Saint-Jean to Lyon. And when we got to Lyon, this couple that I was walking with said they were going to take an extra day. And I had not done that. I'd walked every day and I just moved all the way through. And when I got to Lyon, my feet were so bad, I thought I should probably take a day too. Now I have to laugh because I'm thinking 1 day, I mean, it's really not going to make that much of a difference because I can barely stand. But what happened was all the people that I was walking with walked on. So I lost my family.
Yeah.
And for me, that was the biggest challenge, was that, oh God, they're gone. And now I'm alone. And, Debbie and Pat, who are the couple that I met them actually the first night in a restaurant in Saint-Jean, and we ended up walking together a good part of the trail. I still had them. They were there when they left the next day and we walked together. But there were all these other people that I had begun to count on, that I really adored, that had become my family. Yeah. And I tried desperately to try to encourage them to stay in Lyon 1 more day so we could keep going together. But that's not fair either, right? Because we all walk our own Camino. And so they went on and I was crushed. I was heartbroken. And I was afraid that I had lost the people that I had come to count on.
Yeah. Oh, I feel you on that. This past Camino that I just did, the same kind of thing happened to me. And it's so hard to make that decision because whether you're going ahead or staying behind. And I wonder for folks who haven't walked yet, if they haven't had this experience, they're probably wondering, what the heck are they talking about? A Camino family? Why are they so upset about, breaking apart from people that they've only known maybe for 15 days or so?
Yeah.
So I wonder if we can kind of talk about that, because I think that was something I was really studying this time as I walked. This phenomena that we go on pilgrimage for a solo journey, and suddenly we start creating these pilgrim families, sometimes the first night, like you're saying, right? And these bonds form, so much so that I know pilgrims that literally didn't listen to their intuition and stop like you did for one night's rest, and ended up injuring themselves very badly just so they could stay with their family, right?
Yeah.
Because it's such a hard decision. So I wonder, especially with your background and what you do for a profession, what's your thought on this? Why do we form this Camino family? How does that come about? And why does it become such an important part of our pilgrimage? I just wonder what your thoughts are on that.
I just have to tell you that just contemplating answering that question just makes me feel so excited, because that is what the Camino is about. It's about the connection that happens while you're walking. And it's a multi-layered connection. It's the connection with people. It's the connection with the earth. It's the connection with yourself. It's the connection with your faith, if you have faith. There's so many levels of connection that happen. But the Camino family for me is at the center of everything. We are a people that are wired to connect. As a social worker, that's what I've done my whole life. It's interesting. We go to school and we study all these theories and of working with people and try to understand. And I was a clinical social worker, so I did a lot of therapy. I've been a therapist for most of my career before I started teaching. And so, I've practiced for a long time, and the longer I've done it, the more I've recognized that the single thing in the human experience that has the capacity to heal is human connection. That's all it is. So it doesn't matter if it's doing yoga like you do, or if it's therapy, or if it's walking the Camino. It's about connecting between the connection that happens when two people truly look at each other and listen to one another and share the experience. And so that happens day in and day out on the Camino. That's what the Camino is about. It is not about walking 500 miles. Hate to break it to anybody who's so excited about that part. That's exciting and it's fun, but that's not what the Camino is about. Except for me, it was not about that. And so the Camino family, it became this extraordinary gift about meeting people from all over the world that you have no history with whatsoever. You don't know anything about them except maybe their first name. And sometimes you don't even know that. And I know this, you'll agree with this. The number of people that I spent the whole day talking to and never learned their name.
Yep.
And yet they are part of my family because I can bring them up in a moment's notice. Just their face, walking with them, the feeling that I had when I was with them, and I didn't even know their name. We don't talk about what we do for a living. We don't talk about how much money we have. It doesn't matter if you have been a total, success in your life or a total failure in your life. None of that stuff matters because you have this moment of connection that is happening in the present. And I often thought, and I said this to several people as we were walking, I tell this story in the book about this young man that I met from South Korea. And I mean, he hardly spoke English, and I certainly don't speak South Korean. But he shared stories with me about his life, and I felt like I had a window into a world that I will never experience. And I'm so grateful to him for that. It's a story that I think of often, because I often said after that conversation, and this was when all that craziness was happening with Trump and Kim Jong-un, and this young man was in the military. He was on the front lines in South Korea right before he walked the Camino. He had just gotten out of the army, and now he was walking the Camino. And so he was there every time North Korea fired missiles. He was on alert on the front lines of the border. And I often thought when it was over, if we could just do this with one another in the world, think of how much more peaceful the world would be. If we could really just look into each other's eyes and listen to one another. And that's the gift of the Camino. That happens all day long, every day for 31, 32, 33 days. And it's extraordinary.
All right, folks, I think we can just end the interview now, because she has completely defined everything I believe about the Camino.
But that's it, right? It's extraordinary. And where does that happen? Where does that happen? It doesn't. It happens there.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, actually. I could talk about that probably all night. So
me too.
I love what you're saying on that. So thank you. Thank you for bringing all of that up. I wonder, you and I it seems like we are sisters in the extroverted world. I love being around people and all of that I love. And I was talking to someone the other day who is an introvert. So I wonder if there's somebody that's out here hearing us talk, and maybe they're a little bit opposite of us, that what we're talking about might kind of scare them. Might be like, I don't know if I want to be around people all day, or have to eat dinner with people, or spend the night in a dormitory kind of setting in bunks. So I wondered, with your background, if you could maybe touch on, to put at ease maybe anyone who is an introvert, that it is still very doable, or if you agree with that. I mean, that's my opinion, but I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, it's so interesting, because one of the women that I met on the Camino is an introvert. She's a member of my family, Camino family. She lives in India, and she's very much of an introvert. She was very quiet. I would see her on the trail, and we'd say hello, and we'd talk for just a few minutes, and then she would, go on, or I would go on. We never stayed in the same place, so I don't know what she did, but I know she did it in a very quiet, very meditative way. She brought her Kindle and she read at night. I didn't have any time I could barely read my guidebook. I'm just so busy talking to people and doing things. But absolutely. And the other thing that I'm an extrovert. Of course, I'm an extrovert. One of the things, though, that happened for me was I spent a lot of days walking all by myself, where there was nobody around me. And I loved that. I loved it. And if you had told me I was going to like that before I went, I would have said, you're nuts. There's no way. I need to be surrounded by people. But there's a way that the Camino gives you the opportunity to experience what you need when you need it.
Yes.
And, because it's a, sort of a classic saying, we all walk our own Camino. And so if you want to walk as an introvert, you will walk as an introvert, and you will do it the way you need to do it. And there will be times when there will be people around you, and there will be other times when you'll find the space that you need. It's just part of the magic that happens.
Yes. Yeah. What was it like that first time, though, where you were alone for the first time? Because I wondered that curiously, because you did say, you really liked being around all those people. Did you have any apprehension on that first time when you realized, wow, I'm actually alone?
I didn't actually. It was so organic. Part of what happens, obviously, is that people are walking at different paces. People will walk past you, you'll walk past them. And then you'll find yourself in stretches. I can think of this one stretch that I was on. I was alone for hours. I mean, probably 3 to 4 hours where it was just me. And I was listening to the birds and the sun on my skin and, you know, the water in the creek running by the road. And I don't think I ever felt more alive. It was pretty amazing. And so again, I would not have predicted that, but I'm so grateful for having had that experience.
Wow, that's beautiful. So let's talk a little bit about your book, and then we'll come back to the Camino. So if you could just tell everyone the name of your book, because I love the title, and talk a little bit about how you came up with that title.
Yeah, so the title of the book is Estrellas, which means stars in Spanish, Moments of Illumination Along El Camino de Santiago. And the title comes from an experience that I had in Carrion de los Condes, where I went to Pilgrim Mass. After the Mass, the priest and the sisters invited us up for a blessing. And when we got a blessing, the sisters gave us a little paper star that when they handed it to us, they said, and I'm paraphrasing, remember that you are light and that it is your job to bring light into the world, but you're never alone. And so when all of us bring light, like the stars in the sky, we can light up even the darkest night. And so it makes me choke up to think of that.
I love it.
Yeah. And so that's where the title's from.
Oh, wow. That is beautiful. And it really encompassed so much of what you've been talking about, is that connection and the light.
Yeah.
And
yep.
wow.
Yeah. So it's really about, and so that's what the title is about. And the book is about the light that people brought to me. So each chapter is focused on a pilgrim that I met, and a story about the light that they brought during my journey.
Wow. Okay. I cannot wait to read that.
Yeah.
All right. Would you mind sharing one that you think would be representative of the book, so people would have an idea if this sounds like something they're going to want to read?
Yeah, well, so actually, I've already shared one with you. Is this young man that I met whose name was Kwang from South Korea, and I tell the story about meeting him and about learning about what his life had just been like. He was a 21-year-old man. He actually only 20. I learned through that day that in Korea, your first birthday is actually your second year. So you become one the day you're born.
Okay.
So he was actually, he said that in our world, he was 20, but in his world, he was 21.
Interesting. Okay.
And in South Korea, you have to serve in the military. So it's mandatory service. So he had just gotten out and he had been on the front lines, and he was very scared. And he talked a lot about how afraid he was. And I thought about that, I'm looking at this young man. And it was funny, when I was writing the book, somebody said to me, all people, when they go into the military young, like, why were you so sort of focused on the fact on how young he was? But he had like this baby face. And and it just shook me. Like, here's this young guy and he's in harm's way. And not only is he in harm's way, but his life is dependent on what our president is doing in the US, because he was kind of goading the president of North Korea into firing missiles over South Korea. And so this guy's life was jeopardized by the stuff my country, right, the US, was doing.
Oh, wow.
And it was quite an experience. And it really, I felt like, as I said before, I felt so grateful that I had met him and that he had shared that experience with me. And we walked together like part of one day and part of another day. And I saw him here and there along the rest of the way. lost track with him at some point, didn't see him at the end. But his story has stayed with me. And so the illumination of that life experience and what it made me think about in terms of the responsibility we have to one another in the world, not just our country. We're in the US, we're very, egocentric. It's all US all the time. And of course, I don't feel that way because I've traveled all over the world and I have dual citizenship, as I mentioned to you before. I have Italian and American citizenship. And so I don't think of it as, it's all US all the time. I think about we're part of the world. We're part of the world community. But I think it was a really important reminder of meeting Kwong that the stuff that we do impacts other people. And so if that's the case, and it is, of course, we better be more mindful about how we live our lives.
Yeah. Wow. What a story.
Yeah.
It's
So
bringing current affairs to life for you, bringing the news.
Absolutely.
Really showing you a real face, a real human that's experiencing that actual news story that we were just hearing in the US. You got to hear about it firsthand.
Exactly.
What a gift.
And it's the randomness of the Camino. It's just that day, here's this guy walking by me and I say, like everybody, Buen Camino. And then that's what happens out of that.
Did you feel ever that that you illuminated anything for anyone that you walked with? Because here you are as a woman from the US and you're walking the Camino. Do you think anyone kind of experienced the same kind of situation meeting you?
I did while I was doing it. No. When I came back, well, actually, let me rephrase that. At the very end, okay, so at the very end of the Camino, I ran into this young woman that I had met part of the way through, and this story is also in the Camino. She's another one of the Estrellas, and she was from Hong Kong, and she hurt her knee, and so we were she hurt her knee, and so I stopped and I wrapped it for her and gave her some Advil or something, and she was a lot of pain. She was crying, and anyway I thought, oh, let me help you. Well, then I would see her sort of on the trail, but at the very end I saw her in Santiago. We had dinner together one of the last nights that I was there. And when she greeted me, she said to me, you rescued me. I think of you as my hero. And I said, why? I mean, I don't know what, I was sort of surprised. And she said, because when I really needed help, you were there. And I don't know what I would have done without you. And so for me, I was like, I'm just doing what anybody would do. People help me, they gave me a Band-Aid or, it never even occurred to me. But then later on, like in hindsight, when people said, this moment was really important to me, thank you for that. I had that opportunity to see that I had been the light for somebody else. But while it was happening, I wasn't really conscious of that at all.
Yeah.
But I was really mindful of the people that were doing it for me. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's a lovely story. And I love how you're referring to the folks in your book as Estrellas, that they were stars for you. That's very, very sweet.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, one of my favorite quotes is that your Camino doesn't end in Santiago. It's actually just starting. And I just wonder for you, what kinds of transformations or things after getting home, as you said, you started writing the book really as a process, and I think you're writing during COVID. What has changed for you since the Camino? What things about you have changed, or how you're looking at the world, or what now that you've finished your book and you've processed more of it, I'm sure there's still more processing going on, but yeah, how do you think it's changed you, and what's that journey looking like right now?
You know, I think if I were to try to sum it up, I think what I don't know that I learned this on the Camino, but I think I became sort of more conscious of it on the Camino, which is that tomorrow isn't promised. We have today. And it's really about embracing the opportunities that you have each day, you know, recognizing that the gifts of the people in your life, the things that you're doing, the space around you, just really embracing it, really leaning into it. And you know, that sounds kind of cliche, but I think when you walk day in and day out for that journey, you know, of 779 kilometers, and you do have that time to slow down, and you do feel the ground beneath your feet, and you do feel the sunshine on your skin, and you do hear the voices of people coming behind you. And you have that moment where you look into someone's eyes and you say, Buen Camino, and they say it back to you. Those moments are fleeting. You don't get them back, right? How many times on the Camino do you say hello to someone that you may never see again? And so in a way, it becomes this microcosm of life. Embrace what's right in front of you right now, because we don't know what's coming around the corner. And look what happened to me. I finished my Camino, and a year later, the world shut down.
Right.
And we're still in that craziness. I mean, it's happening again. We're with this new variant, everything's shutting down again.
Right.
Who would have ever imagined?
Right.
So for me, part of it is, and so how do I do that? I say thank you a lot more than I did before.
The gratitude.
Yeah.
Showing it.
Showing it, you know, thanks for doing that. Thanks for giving me that. Thanks for spending time with me. Thanks for telling me that story. I say thank you a lot more than I ever said it before. I tell the people that I love them, I'm not waiting for, you know, somewhere down the road, you know. I have become more immediate. And I think that has been a gift of the Camino for me, which is today is today. Today's the day you have. And I think I had been given glimpses of that other times in my life. You know, we always say that when somebody dies, like when my mom died or my dad died suddenly, it's like, oh, you know, tomorrow isn't promised, blah, blah, blah. But there was a way in which walking the Camino really brought that home to me. And it was a phenomenal gift to learn that. And I don't always remember, but I remember a heck of a lot more than I used to.
Suzanne, that was a powerful, powerful story. And I really appreciate you talking about this tonight and, you know, reminding me, because I think that's one of the things that you're so right. You know, I think the Camino serves as a big sample of what our life is like. And it shows you very easily how fleeting moments can be. And I'm sure you probably had this happen perhaps, but that, you know, there would be a pilgrim I would see every day, say 3 or 4 days in a row. And I just expected to see them again.
Yep.
Maybe didn't even get their name, their contact information, and I never saw them again. And then there were some people that I was pretty sure I'd never see again. And then we would end up somehow together somewhere else that made no sense.
Absolutely.
But it is very representative of life. And I really love how you said that you say thank you more often. And
Mhm.
that is really powerful. I think I want us to end there. We're past our mark already for time, but I want to leave our viewers and listeners with that story. That is just beautiful. I will have the links to your book. I'm pretty confident everybody hearing this is probably going to want to race out and get a copy of it. So I'll have links in the show notes, everyone, if you are interested in checking out the book and learning more about Suzanne. And wow, thank you so much, Suzanne, for being here tonight. And viewers and listeners, I hope that this resonated with you as much as it did with me tonight. I have really enjoyed this conversation. It brought back so many memories of my own Caminos and makes me want to walk again. I can't wait to get back out there. So anyway, if you're walking through Rabanal, please stop by and say hi. And who knows, maybe you'll run into Suzanne and I. We love making Camino family members, so who knows? We welcome that. And I'm going to say goodbye to all of our viewers. Suzanne, if you'll just stay on with me for a moment so we can say goodbye. We'll be back right after the new year with the next episode. And in the meantime, start planning, start training, start doing what you need to do to get yourself here.
And Buen Camino.
Buen Camino, everyone.